Good morning, everybody. My name is Caroline, and this is
Andre.
and together we are the Bakers. This morning, we wanted to share our story with you about a miscarriage that we had in 2020 in hopes that our story will help shed some light on someone who may be experiencing a miscarriage or any type of infant loss. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and kind of share some facts about what happened. Um, okay, so in full transparency, we have not really openly talked about our loss with miscarriage. This is really kind of a authentic moment, but we've kind of discussed our feelings about it here and there since. So bear with us. All right, so just kind of give you a timeline of what happened in July, maybe early August of 2020. We found out that we were going to be expecting our first child. We did conceive our first child through IUI, which is known as intrauterine insemination. Couldn't think of the word. And that, around that time, we had found out that we were pregnant. And so things were going well with the pregnancy. I was going to get ultrasounds every week. The baby was growing. Things seemed to be going well. However, we hadn't fully announced to the general public that we were expecting. The plan was to announce that we were expecting on our 1 year anniversary, which was September 14th. And so, we were all excited, shared with our family members, our close family members, close friends, just kind of put the buzz out there. And, on February 14th, when our anniversary came around, I made a Facebook post just kind of revealing, hey, it's our 1 year anniversary. Uh, we did a picture with the dog saying soon to be big brother, soon to be big sister, and just kind of put the news out there. And we got an overwhelming response of love and support and congratulations from everybody. By that time, when I made the announcement, I was around.
Going out towards the end of the first trimester.
I was around about 8 weeks pregnant. 8 weeks pregnant. I had stopped going every week to get the ultrasounds because at our fertility clinic, they allow you to come every week. But I decided, hey, I wanted to wait a couple weeks, let the baby grow, and then I'll go towards the end of my first trimester, to get that final ultrasound before I graduated to seeing my OBGYN. So around the 10-week mark, I went in and to get my ultrasound, and we realized that the fertilized egg has not grown since the 8th week. And I'll share a little bit more details about that experience, but I'm going to just kind of just lay out the groundwork for it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Andre to share his response to the situation. But anyway, we found out that the egg had not grown and that there was no heartbeat at that point, and that it was, declared pretty much that I had a miscarriage. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Andre to share his experience of what happened.
Well, my experience isn't too far off. I didn't receive the news till you went to your doctor's appointment. I had righteously just got out of a meeting at work, get ready to start my shift, meeting with my associates. So I got the call. I went and spoke with my plant manager. Come to find out, after speaking to him and telling him what the situation was, automatically I was leaving work regardless. But come to find out that miscarriage is not so uncommon as you would think it is. Come to find out a couple of my coworkers actually had miscarriages around, I can't say around the same time, but throughout that year themselves. So we talked about it. I basically headed on to work. I headed on to the house to come check on the wife. It wasn't a good feeling. I can tell. I promise you that. It's not a good feeling, but you'll be surprised just speaking on it how many people keep this thing locked on the inside as well. So it's like once you speak on it, you'll be surprised. Oh, this happened to us. This happened to us. This happened to us. And, they tell you their story. It doesn't make the pain go away, but it kind of gives you some type of enlightenment as far as how uncommon, it's not how very common it really is, as far as in the community as a whole. So, we get the information, got the call, you already know, not coming home to a happy moment. So it's now more trying to listen and console and try to figure out where to go, where do we go from there.
What was your initial reaction when you heard that we had a miscarriage?
What type of other reaction would it? It's like a punch in the gut. Like you can't. It's not like something you can go to the hospital. It's not like a broken arm. You can't fix it. It's done. So it's kind of a punch in the stomach. Kind of you got to stand back. It's like shock. If anything, it's like doesn't matter whether it's a baby or it's an adult. When you first hear the news, you already understand there's nothing you can do to fix it. It's not like any type of repairable situation. It's said and done, and you got to figure out how to deal with it from there. So.
Okay. So I'll kind of share my experience. So going into that ultrasound, you're all excited, and we're at that point where really at the fertility clinic is considered graduation day. And so with graduation day, you get your final ultrasound, your baby measurements, and you pretty much get your go ahead to go and, see your OBGYN and start your prenatal care from that point on. And so going into there, I was happy, excited. I had just had left work early for a little bit to go to my appointment, and I was going to go back. And then, to have all that happen, and I can remember just kind of laying there on the table, just, in silence. And the nurse practitioner, I could just remember seeing her face and just kind of how she was, at a loss for words, as we were trying to figure out what was going on. She's trying to find a heartbeat. I can look on the screen to tell the actual size of the fertilized egg or the fetus, however you want to consider it. Had not grown since I last seen it. And in my heart, I knew what happened, but I just couldn't process. I just hadn't had a chance to really process what was going on. It seemed like everything was just happening so fast. And so she was like, let me go and, get another provider, get another opinion. Maybe I'm missing something. It's okay. Just give me a second. And, in my heart, I'm like, I already know what's going on. And so the other nurse practitioner came into the room and just kind of started taking a look. And, immediately she was like, Caroline, I'm so sorry. You've had a miscarriage. And so I was just kind of at a loss for words. But in my heart, once I seen what the baby looked like on the screen, I knew that this had happened. And so after that moment, just kind of sitting there processing, the tears started flowing. Things started coming into perspective. And so I just kind of sat there just not knowing what to do. And in my mind, I'm thinking, we just told everybody that we know that we are having a baby. And how am I going to tell everybody that now we're not having a baby and know what happened? And so, it was a large pill to swallow. So after that, I ended up speaking with the doctor, just kind of deciding what next steps would be and what was going to happen. And come to find out, I actually had something that was called a missed miscarriage. And basically what that is that you have a miscarriage. However, your body has not expelled or released the egg from your uterus. And so you haven't had a cycle. There was no, blood or anything. Basically that, the baby was still attached to my uterus and it had not came out yet. So I didn't know that I had a miscarriage, basically. So looking back on the events and things leading up to it, I really did beat myself up about it. Like, what did I do? Did I take something I shouldn't have taken that, caused this? Did I not eat right? Did I get too stressed? Did I, you start going through your head and just trying to figure out and pinpoint, why did this happen and how did this happen? And so Um, after just kind of beat myself up and just really put myself through the wire with it in my brain, because I'm not physically displaying all of this, but I'm dealing with it in the inside as much as I can. Um, I finally just kind of came to that conclusion that I was just kind of ready to move on from it. There was nothing I could do about it. It was all said and done. My heart was broken. My expectations were broken. Um, I just wanted to move on. I didn't want to stop trying to have a baby because I knew that we were able to do it. We were successful in getting pregnant on our first round of IUI. So, in my mind, I'm like, we just try again. We're going to try again. We're going to keep trying. But at the same time, I wasn't really dealing with these feelings from what happened with the miscarriage. So fast forward, I gave myself about a week or so to just kind of grieve and just kind of work through my emotions and my feelings about the miscarriage before I returned to work. And the day before that I decided to return to work, I went ahead and posted on my Facebook just saying, hey, we experienced a miscarriage, and just kind of letting everybody know what happened. And my hopes of doing this was to eliminate people from asking questions when I got to work. I'm like, if they see it now, they'll know when I get back to work not to ask me about the baby. And so, for the most part, that is what happened. I did get an overwhelming, response of support, words of encouragement. Just like Andre said, people reached out and said, hey, I too have had a miscarriage. I've had 2, 3, 6 miscarriages. I was still able to have a baby after that, and and things like that. So it did really open my eyes to how common it is and how we as women do not talk about it, and the importance of talking about it and what that could mean for somebody else. So anyway, went back to work. For the most part, things were fine. People were very supportive. Nobody really mentioned the baby. Everybody just kind of like, Caroline, if you need anything, let me know, kind of thing, which I appreciated because I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to just gloat in it. I was ready to move on. And then I had a couple of people who maybe didn't get the word or just didn't know what happened, but they would like, oh, how's the baby? And how far along are you now? And have y'all picked out names? And I'm just kind of, to take a minute and just kind of pause and say, we lost the baby. And I could just, from that moment, the conversation would just take a quick turn to be uncomfortable. And I could feel myself kind of like, it's okay. I'm consoling them because now they feel bad. But at the same time, I'm just like, I just had to reopen that wound again. So it was a lot. It was a very big challenge to get through. But we didn't give up. We didn't lose hope. I ended up having a DNC done to have the baby removed, and I'll let Andre come talk about what was his experience with that process.
Yes, fellas, I'll tell you this right now. That'll probably be the longest experience of your life, not just hers. It'll be the longest experience of your life. I know after they came and got her and was taking her into surgery, from the moment we got there, it was just kind of, okay, we're here for this. It's like the final step. I promise you, I sat in that chair for 8 hours straight and didn't move. They said, you can go get something to eat, come do this. I really didn't have any interest in moving. If something happened, I already lost one, something happened to her, I wanted to make sure I was there for an instant response. So I stayed there. And after that moment, that's when reality truly strikes. Like, it's said and done. Nothing's going to change miraculously or anything. After she comes out of there, you have to understand one thing. She's not going to be in her total mind. It's like you need to be the one to really absorb everything that's going on around you. Just like when it's come to consoling her, talking to the doctors and consoling her, you got to kind of wear 2 hats at the same time. Sometimes it's space, sometimes it's silence, but you have to kind of think her wavelength as well. What would she want to know? from my experience with that, she wasn't in her true frame of mind because she loves information, especially when it comes to certain things. But when the doctor started asking questions, she wasn't there. So I had to step in for that. Come to find out the reasoning for the miscarriage was it self-awarded. It was something wrong and it terminated itself in order not to have any issues. So that's why it kind of locked in. So it wasn't anything any of us done. It's just nature. Um, Also, found out that you were able to find out the sex of the baby at the same time as well. Come to find out it was a boy. So that kind of was more of a shot to the gut on me again. Because as a man, that's what you want. I say at least my preference. I wanted a boy out the gate. I want a girl too. But I wanted a boy out the gate. So after that was kind of just a more of a mundane drive home. I know she was hungry because she didn't sleep all that time, and I was too. Just basic and just worked our way through the process, not really through more of spoken word, more of just action. Just kind of just trying to put this behind us, kind of tuck this away and move forward.
So I think the surgery for me was like you said, the final step. It was the step where I got the closure, and that's when I kind of just disconnected. And I felt that disconnecting from the baby, from, what happened was what was needed in order for me to be able to move on and to recover. And that may be a defense mechanism, probably, I don't know, but it just helped me get, over that hump that was kind of keeping me stuck with grieving this loss. And so, pretty much after the surgery, I recovered, went back to work. It was nothing strenuous or anything like that. But, at that point, I had made up in my mind that I was leaving, what had happened in the past. So that's the gist of really our miscarriage story. I do want to leave you with some tips, and I want Andre to give some tips as well of, if you recently experienced a miscarriage or infant loss, just some things that to consider with how to deal with this. And the biggest tip that I will say is to communicate with your partner. Let them know how you feel. It's not a big secret. You don't have to keep your feelings about your loss or, what you're feeling a secret. You don't have to deal with it on your own. Communicate. If today is a bad day and I'm thinking about the baby and I'm thinking about, what happened, I'm feeling guilty, whatever, communicate those feelings to your partner, to your support person, somebody that's willing to listen and give you some support. Because keeping all that stuff bottled up in the inside really does not help you. It makes it harder to move on. It makes it harder to really effectively grieve the loss. So my big thing is to communicate. What tip would you say would be most helpful?
But I would say on that, as far as tip wise, like I said, communication is key because you're going through this together, you're not going through it separately. You both lost what you were working for. The biggest thing I could say is just be open. Uh, and just, how can I say, just what I mean by open, when you mean consoling her, sometimes just give her exactly what she needs. If she wants some space, let her have some space, but still let her know that you're there. Um, the other thing I would say is don't blame yourself. That's the biggest mistake that most people do, blame themselves. If you're living a normal everyday life, doing nothing out of the ordinary, and you're pregnant and something just happens, if 9 times out of 10 it was meant to be, because nothing really changes. So don't blame yourself like it's something you could have done differently, because really we live our same routines majority throughout our lifetime. Like, boom, get in a routine. Some routines change for the better. Some routines change for the worse. But 9 times out of 10, if you know you're pregnant and you're about to have children, it usually changes for the better. So if something happens, don't blame yourself and don't absorb all the guilt onto yourself. Because 9 times out of 10, it was nothing that you did wrong that caused it to happen. But don't be afraid to be open about it. Like I said, everybody handles these type of situations in their own way. It's just try to be respectful to your partner. Doesn't mean they're pulling away or anything like that. People handle their grief differently, and vice versa. If you want to speak on it, speak on it. So,
And just to kind of give you a beacon of hope, so we did do another round of the IUI procedure at the fertility clinic. And again, we were successful, and we do have a 4-month-old baby boy. Um,
big baby boy.
Big baby boy is growing. He's healthy. He's happy. You can hear him in the background. Who has blessed our lives. So, keep going, keep at it. If you're trying to conceive, don't give up hope. Because there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a blessing waiting on you. There's a baby that's happy and healthy and waiting for you as well. So don't give up. But I will leave you with that. And I appreciate you all for joining us today and just listening to our story. Again, I hope that this story does shed some light and give some hope and inspiration to someone who may be or may have recently experienced a miscarriage or still struggling with the loss of a miscarriage.